All right, so this one, we're basically just showing the difference between a hyperdoc versus a teacher-led lesson. Teacher-led lessons are a natural part of our, I guess, approach.
Pedagogy,
Yeah,
and the way we're raised and called to be teachers.
that's right. So we just want to maybe encourage with the hyperdoc a different way of, instead of always falling on a teacher-led lesson, let's really looking at the hyperdocs and their benefits again.
So hyperdocs are essentially a way to also think about inquiry-based teaching.
Mhm.
So hyperdocs are just great for student collaboration and student teamwork and student choice.
They really have to look at the information that's in front of them and find some way, even together, to synthesize and really think about the information that they're providing. And then how are they going to then represent that thinking and those new thoughts on the hyperdoc or whatever method of reflection you're having them do.
In a hyperdoc, you can also provide access to multiple resources, which is very different than providing them just one article to read and pull out research from.
Right. And what's also cool is the pace is no longer dictated by the teacher. The group or the student makes that decision for themselves, and they really work at a pace that speaks to them as learners versus, in your class, you may have, based on your pace, a kid that's done and waiting for everybody else, or the kid in your classroom that's behind because they work at a much slower pace. So Hyperdoc really kind of takes care of that as well.
Yes. And again, such a critical skill for students is just to determine importance within any type of text. And so if they are working collaboratively on a hyperdoc or if they're working independently, either way, they have to, depending on what you're having them do, if it's a reading task, they have to be able to kind of pull out that information. And by forcing them to be accountable in their hyperdoc and pulling out this information, students can't just be passive anymore. They have to show their learning, and you're kind of checking in with them and holding them accountable.
Think about it at a staff meeting when we're taking notes. If you're taking notes, you can type or copy down a note or take a note pretty easily without thinking about it if it's just up on the board or if you're a receiver of knowledge. But if you are actually, asking students to think about what they want to know, then sorry, this has interrupted us.
Then they're being held accountable and they're
Right.
being agents of their own learning.
Right.
And that's all we want for them.
Sorry for that interruption, by the way. If you have any questions, talk to us.